Ultra rare platinum trophies. I mean, who doesn't like getting more ultra rare platinum trophies? There are tons of trophy hunters out there, and we all trophy hunt a little bit differently, but being one of 5% of people to get a platinum just feels good. Sure, there's a number of reasons that might indicate why something's ultra rare. Generally, if it's on PS Plus and it has a ton of owners, but it's a little on the harder side, it tends to become ultra rare. It's not the best metric for determining what's hard and what's easy, but give yourself a little pat on the back if you got some ultra rare platinums. I know personally I get a little skittish and weird when people are like, oh, look at these platinums that you have. And most of them, they're talking about ultra rare platinums. But I think this week, let's all take a step back. Let's talk about the trophy hunting that we've been doing. And let's give ourselves a pat on the back. Let's be like, good job, everybody. And let's talk about some really cool platinums that we've achieved. This week, I want to talk about the top 10 rarest platinums that I have, all of which are ultra rare. Let's get into it. Number 10 is N++. N++ is a 2D precision platformer. It's up there with like the likes of Super Meat Boy, and I'd even say that like an N++ level is harder than an individual Super Meat Boy level. There's even a lot more levels in N++ than there are in Super Meat Boy. Luckily, you don't have to do a like full world, no death playthrough in N++. It's really get through the game and play every level. What makes this ultra rare? Just the sheer number of levels. I legit think there are thousands of levels in this game. There are so many. Beyond that, there's also like co-op trophies that you can only do in local co-op. I know some people in forums have said they've done them with a second controller, but I think that's really hard. Like, these levels are timed, so you really need someone with you in person who is also good at platformers to get these things done. When the game first came out on PlayStation, it was bugged for one of the trophies, so no one had the platinum for a long time, but that set's been fixed, and you can get all of them as expected. Number 9 is Deadbolt, and Deadbolt is like hot off the presses for me. I pretty much just got this platinum. The best comparison for Deadbolt is really Hotline Miami, except instead of top-down like Hotline Miami is, Deadbolt is front-facing, and you have like multi-story buildings, and you can see all the stories at one like front-on view. Your goal usually is to kill everyone in the level, but sometimes it's to get a certain objective or to kill just a specific enemy and then get back to your car and get out of there. The problem is, you die in one hit. So what makes this game ultra rare? It's really just 3 trophies. The first requires you to 5-star every level in the game. There's only 27 levels in the game. It's not really that crazy. But what is crazy is in order to get those ratings, you have 3 kind of intense criteria. So the first is time. Obviously, you need to beat the level quickly. The second is accuracy. You need to be very accurate with your shots. If you go below 80%, you're probably not going to get the 5-star rating. And the third criteria is headshot accuracy. So of your shots that are hitting, how many of them are headshots? If you're using a shotgun or an SMG, that really kills your headshot rating most of the time. There's a few levels in particular that are just a nightmare to get this in, and it takes a lot of work, and that by far, that alone, took me the most amount of time out of any trophy in this game. The second is beat the entire game without dying. So if you've played Wolfenstein, you know how hard permadeath is. It's a pain in the butt. It's generally not a long game. Like, you could beat the whole game pretty quickly, but again, you die in one hit, guaranteed. So you really need to plan, you really need to be overly cautious, you need to be overly careful, and you need to know the game really well. And the last trophy is a speedrun trophy. So you have to beat the entire game in under 1 hour. You can die as many times as you want, assuming you're not combining it with the no death trophy, which, why would you do that, you crazy lunatic? But 1 hour is so tight. This took me like 18 tries to get, and it's only 27 levels, and most of them are under a minute long if you do them very quickly. But for the few that are a little bit longer, and if you die right at the end of the level, it just kills your time. And the final boss is ridiculous. Like, I got to the end of the game multiple times, and he just took my head off for like 11 minutes. Like, I got to the final boss with like 11 or 12 minutes to spare in the run, and I still went over time. It's so frustrating to get this trophy, and It's a hard platinum, and no one's heard of this game. So go get Deadbolt. I had fun with it. I had a nightmare getting the platinum, though. Number 8 is Nom Nom Galaxy. Nom Nom Galaxy was a PS Plus game, so that generally, in this era when Nom Nom Galaxy came out, it inflated the rarity. It made games more rare for the most part. Nowadays, it tends to be like hit or miss if a PS Plus game helps the rarity or hurts the rarity. But Nom Nom Galaxy is all about making soup in space. It's kind of silly and it's kind of janky. There's a few things that make this one ultra rare. So it's got online challenges that are either daily or weekly. I don't really remember, but you need to put in a time for a day or a week and wait until that day or week cycle completes. And then you get points based on how well you did compared to everybody else. It also has co-op trophies. It also has a ton of pins, I think they're called, for doing specific actions like hundreds of times. So it's a little grindy like that. It's generally like not a fun time past the campaign. And it's grindy. Like, I don't really like ultra rare grindy platinums. That's not really my bag, because if it's a grindy platinum that's ultra rare, that's typically because it's a long grind. I don't think Nom Nom Galaxy is a long grind. Like, I don't think it's particularly painful, but I don't find it rewarding. I would not recommend going for this one. Number 7 is Tricky Towers. Tricky Towers was a PS Plus game a while ago, just like Nom Nom Galaxy was, and it's generally, what if we played Tetris, but we also added this really awful physics that gets in your way all the time? I found myself with Tricky Towers to be like naturally good at it, which was really weird for me, and I do not recommend going for Tricky Towers. I find it finicky. Like, it's not really RNG, but it sometimes feels random based on what works and what doesn't work. It's got a lot of challenges that you got to do. They're pretty hard. It's got an online component, so you got to drag one of your friends in to do it with you. It's just, there's a lot of baggage in this platinum that doesn't like feel fun, and I don't like the inherent gameplay of it. Like, I like Tetris a lot, but I don't really like Tetris with these awful physics. And maybe that's just me. Maybe this is like a funny time to have with friends. But for me, this is a no. Don't recommend. Number 6 is Wolfenstein 2. So Wolfenstein 2 is an ultra rare platinum because of one simple trophy, which is, of course, Mein Leben, for beating the entire game on the second hardest difficulty without dying. I really like what the Platinums had to say about Mein Leben. Like, it's not Mein Leben, it's our Leben. I really like the sense of community that's developed over this trophy, because when Wolfenstein 2 first came out, it was like, this is a trophy that I can never get. I am not good enough to get this platinum. But over time, it's become this like rite of passage trophy into really hard platinums, and the community around it is so good. And it seems like everyone is getting this platinum now, and people are eager to help you. People are eager to say, this is the video I watched. These are some tips that I found. This is what didn't work for me. And it's really nice to see the trophy community come together in this way. For me, personally, Wolfenstein 2 took like almost 30 tries, which is what seems like way more than what most people are reporting nowadays. So I don't know if there's better resources or I just suck at FPS games. Could be a bit of both. But I do thoroughly recommend this platinum. I think, again, it's a good rite of passage platinum. It's a good community-based platinum. It's a good way to, like, get involved in this group that is going for this trophy. Number 5 is XCOM 2. XCOM 2 has a bunch of, like, really hard trophies. It's got, like, beat the game before a certain date. It's got, like, beat the game on the hardest difficulty and beat the game on Iron Man. And, for someone who loves XCOM, this list is just a blast. Like, I am someone who likes strategy games. I'm someone who particularly likes the XCOM series, and I'm someone who likes doing weird playthroughs or challenge runs or that sort of thing. So XCOM 2 for me is a dream come true. If you don't like strategy games, like, stay far, far away. I do think this list is cheesable, though. Like, if you really, really wanted to cheese it, you could back up your save to the cloud at every single opportunity, every time something goes your way, to make sure you can roll back to it. I don't think that's a lot of fun, and I think the load times are way too long to really make that feasible, but I know people who have done it, so, like, you can do it too if you want to. Overall, I do recommend it. Like, I had a fantastic time going for this platinum. It did take me a long amount of time, like calendar-wise, in order to get it, but I had fun up until the very end, which is more than I could say about a lot of platinums that are not ultra rare. Number 4 is Bound. So Bound I got fairly recently. Bound I got back in December, and this is another case of a PS Plus game, I think artificially inflating the rarity on a trophy. Bound's claim to fame is mostly the speedrun trophies, and I think any trophy hunter who doesn't like speedrun trophies will be naturally scared off by this list because there's a lot of speedrun trophies here. There's one for each level, there's one for the whole game, and there's one for the whole game with 100% of the collectibles. The collectibles are finicky, like they don't really seem like you pick them up half the time. Like my strategy was you can load up a UI component that says, yeah, like you just got a collectible and it like raises a percentage for the level. And like that was my way to make sure I picked them up as I was rushing through as fast as I could. But like it feels like there should be more there. Bound is an ultra rare platinum that I really think anyone could get if they wanted to. It requires some work, it requires some practice, but there's nothing in here that like your standard gamer can't get. Number 3 is Tetris Effect. So we talked about Tricky Towers, and now we're talking about Tetris Effect. In my opinion, Tetris Effect as a game, ignoring the trophy list, is kind of weird. Like, you have all these effects, you have all the sound effects, you have all the visuals, you have the VR component if you have a headset, and like all that stuff to me is like distracting. It makes me play worse Tetris. So when you're playing Tetris Effect and you're distracted by those types of elements, and then the trophy list asks you to be really, really good at Tetris, I find that like kind of disconnected. I don't know. I couldn't focus with it. So what do you have to do? Why is it ultra rare? You have to get a SS, which is a very high score on every level in the game. The campaign mode isn't that bad, but we got some of the effect modes, and those are kind of a pain in the butt. So it's usually the standard Tetris modes that are really hard. Like the sprint mode for clearing 40 lines within a time limit has an insane time requirement to get below, and it takes hours to get good enough to get that. The SS requirements alone, I think, would make this ultra rare, but beyond that, it also has this weird grind fest, and you can only grind for trophies on Saturdays, which is like the weirdest thing I've ever heard of. I don't know if they've ever patched this out of the game, but when I did it, you could only make progress towards this trophy specifically on Saturdays, and you had to get 100 of these avatars, which you weren't guaranteed to get, and that's just such a nightmare requirement. Like, I can't imagine any game doing that today and the trophy hunting community not getting up in arms about it. Do I recommend Tetris Effect? I think so. I really like Tetris. I really enjoy striving to be better at Tetris. So if you like Tetris, I think you will love this platinum. If you hate Tetris, I think it will be a nightmare and it will be keeping you up for weeks on end. Number 2 is Invisible Ink. So I love Invisible Ink. It has everything. It is a strategy game. It has a cool cyberpunk theme. It's got a cool heist mechanic. Like the whole game is basically a series of heists. And like those 3 things combined are my jam. I also think this trophy has been artificially inflated by PS Plus. But like maybe not. Like I noticed that there is sort of a disconnect between the trophy hunting community and strategy games. Like strategy games are typically on the more rare side. Invisible Ink will require multiple playthroughs, but it's fun to play through multiple times. Like there's a ton of different characters, there's a ton of different abilities. It's sort of procedurally generated, so you can get different skills every run, and I think that's a fun time. The worst trophy in the lot is surviving for 20 days in endless mode, and it's kind of stupid. Like if you make it to day 3 or 4, you're basically going to make it to the end. It's really just a grind fest of, at minimum, it's like 40 missions in a row, which is a lot of missions that, you know, you could just leave. Like, as soon as you get in, you could go for the exit, beeline for the exit, and you're out. So it's like, why are we doing this? It's kind of a dumb trophy in my opinion. The game itself is amazing. I think it is a really cool take on the strategy genre. If you like strategy games, I think Invisible Ink is great. I think the Platinum is great. I just think it's a little artificially rare. And number 1 is, of course, the crown jewel. How could it be anything else? It is Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy is an infamous platinum. It requires you to do no death runs throughout an entire world. So that's 20 levels back to back without dying once. You can quit out before you die, but you have to be fast enough to pause it to quit out. And a lot of times you won't be. For me, no game has ever come close to Super Meat Boy to how nervous I felt going for the platinum. Like, when you're on levels 18 or 19 of a no death run and you only need 1 or 2 more levels in order to win, nothing beats that feeling when you get it, and there's no feeling worse when you miss it. I think my biggest tip for Super Meat Boy is you can't get mad. Like, you have to accept that sometimes devastating losses will happen. I think more than any other game I've ever played, Super Meat Boy made me learn to be patient with video games, made me learn to be like, okay, deep breath, we lost this one, but we're coming back for the next one. Do I recommend Super Meat Boy? I think that's a hard question to answer. I think it really varies person to person. I would recommend it because I think going for those hard platinums and really challenging myself was fun. Like, I really liked striving to do better world to world, but I also recognize that that's not for everybody. Like, some people just want to play a fun game and move on. But if you like platformers, I think you need to play Super Meat Boy. You don't have to go for the platinum, but I think it is kind of iconic in platforming, especially 2D platforming, of course. So yeah, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say I recommend Super Meat Boy. Go for it. So that's it. Those are my 10 rarest platinums according to PSN profiles. I'm very interested to hear what yours are. What are your top 10 rarest trophies? Tell me in the comments below. If you see other people who are posting theirs and you're like, damn, that's a sick platinum, you got Crypt of the Necrodancer, upvote them. Tell them they're great. And again, I know ultra rares kind of can become ultra rare for all sorts of different reasons, but these are mine. I hope you have a good day.